Welcome to Tenacious Entrepreneurs, where perseverance meets purpose and every setback is just another step forward. Join us as we dive into the journeys of entrepreneurs who faced failures, embraced change, and emerged stronger than ever. Whether you're dreaming big or already on your way, this podcast is here to remind you that the end is only the beginning. Stay inspired, stay tenacious, and let's conquer the entrepreneurial world together.
Hey, it's Joey Dupont. Welcome back to Tenacious Entrepreneur Podcast, where we're going to dig down a little bit on a special guest. If you'll notice, we have a pink cup today. I've got Diva here in the house. And
cheers!
There we go. We're going to dig down into the life of a female entrepreneur and being able to dig down and figure out the good, the bad, and the ugly. But first, I'd love to get to know you a little bit. Tell me, did you grow up in New Orleans?
I did.
Okay, so you're a New Orleans Yad girl, huh?
Well, I grew up in New Orleans, so that I guess that really does make me.
You're a true Yad.
But the little caveat is that I was born in Brazil, and my dad is from Brazil, my mom's from New Orleans, and that saving grace was really what's going to be something that would come around and save me again after Hurricane Katrina. So backstory, raised in New Orleans all my life, high school, grammar school, college.
So high school where?
Ursuline.
Okay.
Forever Ursuline. I went to Ursuline, I went to Loyola, got a degree from there, and ultimately just stayed in the city. I worked in the hospitality industry for 10 years.
Okay, so you fast forward really fast, but
yeah.
let's take it from the beginning. You grew up here. Do you have brothers, sisters, cousins?
I have.
Was it just you in town, or?
No, we're a small family, so I have two brothers.
Okay.
And my dad's family is all in Brazil. My mom doesn't have any siblings, so we really
didn't have a lot of cousins. It was just pretty much just you and them growing up.
Yeah.
Older brothers or younger? Or
I'm the eldest. I have two younger brothers. One is a dentist in Baton Rouge.
But it's like 5 years younger, 10 years younger.
He's 2 years younger.
Okay, 2 years.
And then the other one is an attorney here in Metairie, and he is 6 years younger. So he's a lawyer. So they say every family has a doctor, lawyer, and Indian chief. Well, I just want to let you know.
You're the Indian chief.
I'm the Indian chief. And my brothers know.
I can imagine being growing up in your household. I imagine that it was mama says, but if sister said.
Yeah. So, kind of getting into the dynamics of that and how does one even become a demo diva. I was the oldest, so I have two brothers, and a Latino family. My dad, has a traditional Brazilian outlook on traditional roles of women, and working in construction was not one of them. And so my dad was a doctor in Chalmette, and he grew up in rural Brazil, very, very poor. And so he was educated in Brazil and came to the United States on a scholarship as a doctor. He came on a Kellogg.
Did you spend any time in Brazil, or did you ever go there?
I did.
Okay. It's a beautiful country. I've been there multiple times.
Yeah. I grew up going back and forth to Brazil many, many, many times.
Okay.
So we would go maybe every other year for Christmas. So I learned Portuguese at a very young age. It was my first language. And then up until the age of 3 or 4, and then, when we came back to the United States, I obviously switched to English. But that foundation all those years was there. And the culture and actually being exposed to poverty, going back and seeing what Brazil, going back to my dad's farmland and seeing just poverty.
Yeah.
So it was... It's lent itself.
Extreme there. There's extreme wealth and there's extreme poverty.
Yeah.
There's a haves and have-nots.
Yeah.
It's truly there's no middle class.
Yeah.
Or at least it hasn't been.
There was a middle class emerging in Brazil at some time, but so I did see, the poverty of the United States does not compare.
Right.
So, but having that culture,
we say we're in poverty because we don't have cell phone reception. It's like,
right, or the AC went out.
yeah,
But growing up in New Orleans East, I loved it. I loved it. I'm actually very proud to say that those were my formative years. We watched when New Orleans East, we were the majority, then it kind of switched over to a minority. And as the neighborhood changed, I actually loved it. I really got immersed in the culture of New Orleans East. In college, I went to go work in Desire Housing Project for Desire Street Ministries. And so I never felt like there was never pocketed neighborhoods to me in New Orleans. Like, this is the black community, this is the white community.
Right.
It all, like, New Orleans is a blend.
Yeah.
And
it's a melting pot.
It really is. If everything sort of just feathers together, just kind of like where you land.
I tried to explain that to somebody that's it's different here in the fact that like everybody has community. Like we're all like part of the same community.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that sort of pulls us together because you're either a New Orleans proper, person that's raised here, or you're not.
Yeah.
But if you are, then you're loved and you're accepted. It doesn't matter if you're black, yellow,
it's
whatever.
That's a real good way to look at it. New Orleans community is not ethnicity.
Right.
It's really, are you in or are you out?
Right.
You know.
I remember when I first came here. Are you
committed or are you not committed?
I first came here in business, trying to do business, and every person that I talked to was like, other places I'd be like, oh, okay, you from here? Yeah, and they'd ask me a question.
Yeah.
Everybody I talked to here was like, what high school did you go to?
Yeah.
What elementary school did you go to? Like, you're not truly from New Orleans unless you say, I went to this elementary school and I went to St. Aloysius or whatever. You know, like you had your specific thing. So you're a true native.
I am.
You know.
And that love, I think that because I grew up, went to school uptown. My dad worked in Chalmette. I went to church in Metairie. There was no barriers.
Yeah, you went all across the board.
I did. I mean, it was very easy for me to just drive, once we got to driving all over. There was no neighborhood that I felt out of touch with. So, fast
forward, like you got out of college.
Fast forward out of college.
Did you get married or did you?
So out of college, I went to go work for Desire Street Ministries. I wanted to go do ministry work. Did that for a couple of years and then went to go work in the hospitality industry. So
like
that
casinos
was
or restaurants
the best years of my life. I worked for a corporate event planning company called Bonnie Boyd and Company.
Okay.
Actually, I started the Port of New Orleans doing events for the port. So I went from ministry to civil service work, which meant poor, slightly poor, like not real big income. Then finally, I was like, I got to get going. I wanted to move out. I lived at home all through college, save. Finally got going and worked for a hospitality industry for 10 years, which really gave me the passion to know the culture of Louisiana. I was selling Southeast Louisiana, the swamps and the bayous tours and the plantation tours and our music and our food. And that really anchored me here in our city until, single all those years. So I was a party girl, like out going to parties, planning parties, selling parties. Yeah. It was a great life.
Yeah. So you fast forward to, are you still single now or are you?
Yep.
Okay. So you're still single?
Single.
And so you fast forward, like you, at some point you decided to start a business or like so give me that transition, like from, I'm in the hospitality industry.
I had just bought my first house, and the years that I was in the hospitality industry, I just bought my first house in Lakeview, and a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, shotgun kind of house, and the storm hit, and
talking about Katrina, Hurricane
Katrina hit, and within, a as we all know, a day, life changed. And
So at that time, you were still in the hospitality industry.
I was working for a corporate event planning company.
Okay.
And they had to lay everyone off. There was no conventions that were coming to New Orleans for 2 years.
Obviously.
Yep. And so I had to regroup really quick. And I started to take I was going to First Baptist of New Orleans. That's where I went to church. And I would take the volunteer groups out into the community. There was just thousands upon thousands of people that were coming in to volunteer. And I was driving them, and I would drop, lead them, the youth group or the older group, whoever it was that was here to gut houses. I would drop them off, and then I'd go back to the church, pick up another group, and until I could find a job. And that was sort of the atmosphere that I was in. Now, at this time, there was inbound thousands of Brazilians and thousands of Hispanics that were coming here to rebuild our city. And I knew Spanish and Portuguese. I had done mission work. I had obviously grown up speaking Portuguese. And suddenly that one talent, that one little thing from my childhood kicked in. It wasn't education. It wasn't who you know. It was, and God just used it because I had gone to Guatemala and done some mission work. Because I had gone to Brazil and planted a church, I really had started to master the languages, the two languages. And I quickly pivoted to start routing crews to certain houses. And at the time, I didn't have kids. Well, I don't have children. And being that I was single, I had the flexibility that my neighbors who had evacuated, they had to put their kids in schools, and they had to live in other states, or at least far outside of New Orleans. So they were calling me, and now I became a voice for the community, like my neighborhood. Can you check on our house? Have we been burglarized? We don't know if we're coming back. And I realized the power of encouragement.
Yeah.
And I would say, listen, your house hasn't been burglarized. You're on the church list. You'll be gutted, in 3 weeks. I'll keep you posted. You can come in if you whatever it is you need. So I was just sort of like a go-between, and that little idea, or you can't outgive God.
Right.
You just can't. Like, it's the law of reciprocity. You put something in motion, and it comes back to you exponentially in a new way. And that is really how it all got going.
So somebody said, I was, during Katrina, I had an RV dealership in Baton Rouge, and I owned Pumpkin Park Campground, which is right outside of, there's a first place you got to that had lights from New Orleans in Hammond area. And so I was on that inside track of people. So I definitely, as far as like all of the people that met at my campground, I didn't house any FEMA camps or anything like that. I just housed like the heads of energy, the heads of Cox Communication, the heads of all those people like congregated at our place. And so I was in on a lot of those meetings. And I remember they would say stuff like in the meeting, like, hey, we need to find somebody to bring in dumpsters. And, I'd be like, hey, I know a guy.
Yeah.
Okay, we need generators, and I knew a guy. So I got to be the guy that knew a guy. And so like the governor's office, everybody just started coming to me for like, we need golf carts, we need, whatever they needed. They'd come to me, and it seemed like I had a connection. I remember getting out of the first meeting, and they wanted me to rent golf carts to them. I got out, and I got on the internet. I was like, how much you charge for a golf cart rental? I don't know how to rent golf carts, but I just went out and bought golf carts.
Yeah.
And so I think it was very much for entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
It was, even though it was a horrible time, if you had that in you to find a need and fill a need, it was the thing that birthed so many entrepreneurs into business that could actually, ride roughshod over it. I got my first contract for I think during the storm, the eye of the hurricane passed over Baton Rouge. I got on the phone and I ordered 5,000 campers. I only sold 100 campers a month. So I mean, it wasn't like it was a big order.
Yeah.
For me, it was like 5 years worth of sales. But I ordered 5,000 campers, and whenever it passed, it was just the Lord. They gave me like the wisdom to do it.
Yeah.
When it passed, I'd locked up every camper manufacturer in Indiana.
Come on,
to
that
sell
is-
me the campers.
Wow.
And so FEMA started contacting me. Like, hey, how do we,
Jimmy.
what, they said they sold them to you. Like, are you selling them to somebody else? I'm like, no, I just was seeing that it was going to be a need.
Yeah.
And so I remember specifically after Katrina, it was, sometimes you feel like for such a time as this, I was placed on this earth. And I felt like that, like every
Yeah.
morning waking up. Like,
Yes,
like
me
it
too.
was just like that.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Like I sense that in you, like the
Yeah.
entrepreneurial side of you
Yeah.
was dormant,
Yeah.
working for somebody.
Right.
But then you can't like hide it forever.
Yeah.
It's in you, like
Yeah.
to figure out.
Yeah.
I remember I had a lady came, had lines of people out the RV dealership lines every morning, lines of cars coming in to buy campers and people sitting on the steps and this is my camper. It was, but
Wow.
it was crazy.
Kind of like Cabbage Patch Kids in the 80s.
It was, yeah. It was crazy. I remember they had this lady specifically. She was in a Land Rover, and she had on men's boxers and a T-shirt, nothing else, no bras, no nothing. Just like, and she came in. She said, "Look, I don't have my wallet. I don't have my purse. I don't have an ID. I have no way of proving anything.
Yeah.
But I need a place to stay." And so we sold her a camper and said, "Look, whenever you get your IDs and stuff, come back and I'll finance it. But
Wow.
here's your camper." But it was those kind of things that like God helped me to be able to see
Yeah.
what was going on
Yeah.
and what how to prepare myself to be able to make the most out of the situation.
You know what? The preparation was being built years prior.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
that's really, I think, for an entrepreneur, entrepreneur is such a fancy word these days, but really it's just a servant that, or somebody that's like,
Finds a need.
I want to, yeah, and to have fun. It could be, I like the idea of being tenacious,
Yeah.
but it's someone to say, I'm ready to pounce. Maybe pounce is not the right word, but I'm ready. What is that saying of like preparation meets opportunity?
Yeah, I feel like that so many people see the need, but they don't put together how to meet the need, and then they don't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And then those people usually get bitter because they're like, well, I could have made millions if I would have just.
Yeah.
No, you didn't take that chance.
Well, I had been doing Bible studies, and sometimes connecting the dots are real wide, but I had been sowing into the city. I loved the Word of God. My first job, as I told you, while I was in college, was sowing into Desire Street Ministries, tutoring kids. So I was already wired to give back. And I would actually say that I learned that in my Catholic, I'm not denominational now, but I would say my Catholic upbringing
Yeah.
instilled that in me.
Yeah, I'm non-denominational now. My dad was Catholic. My mom was Baptist. They got
Okay.
married and went to the Methodist church. So it was.
That's a
but
good
yeah,
blend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but so I grew up with that dogmatic. You're in church every Sunday. You
Yeah.
don't skip mass.
Yeah.
Whatever it was. Like I grew up
Yeah.
in that same type of atmosphere.
Ursuline's motto is servium, and it's just service. And really, that is what it was, what I felt like was really instilled in me. I did not grow up Baptist, but when I saw how the Baptists move people, woo! They move these troops, and those kids from like diapers on are taught to serve. I was dumbfounded by the level of, like, it was so innate in these thousands upon thousands of people that came into our city, and I'm not, even though I went to the church, I was not of that culture really,
Yeah.
like I can't
Yeah.
explain it, but it was beautiful.
Yeah.
But I will say this. So what happened was a friend loaned me a apartment in the CBD. Like it was their weekend house or apartment. So I had a place to hang my hat in the city, which was really tremendous at the time. And I would walk from the convention center all the way down the Moonwalk to the French Market, and I would pray. And I was just weeping, and I was speaking in the Spirit, and I like jumped up on park benches out on the Moonwalk, and the homeless people were like, "Oh, we got a new one," But I was fired up, and I would, I'd speak over to the like St. Louis Cathedral, and I would say, I rebuke poverty over my city. I rebuke death. You won't have no, I mean, I was just speaking to the atmosphere, and I was like, go. And now this river will flow upward. This river will flow for revival. You know, we are not taking the refuge of the country. We are going to be the light up the Mississippi. I mean, I didn't know, and I was just pulling down strongholds. And I didn't realize that the Lord would give me a business of pulling down. What I was saying in the spirit, he gave me in the natural. And a Christian man told me this saying, and I say it all the time, God does not call the equipped. He equips the called.
That's good.
I had no tools. No one in my family is in construction. I could have never told you what that horse, what do they call iron horse on the side of the road was called. You know, I just didn't know equipment. I looked at it as dirty. I mean, I sold tablecloths. I sold flowers. I sold lighting and aesthetics and smell good. And now all of a sudden my vision changed. My desires changed. Like my ears changed. When I heard the chains rattling of the National Guard, I literally, it just excited me. I was like, the Calvary of Hope is here. Heavy equipment is hope. My whole inner being changed. And I know that it was absolutely born out of the Spirit. I was called to this.
So tell me how that
love it.
Tell me how that first thing happens. So like, okay, like you're in the hospitality industry. You're meeting people in the streets and helping with the church and getting things going. At what point did you see the need for demolition? And how did you actually engage that?
Great question. And this is a story I haven't really talked about in a while, but I for the last 19 years, I've always shared this story. So because I spoke Portuguese, I had access to labor. And I was the first person on my block, Memphis Street, New Orleans, to gut and start like tearing. It was, like I said, 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. I was sitting on a 5-gallon paint can, and the only person around had these 2 Brazilian brothers helping me, and it was just the first decision to do anything. And so I'm sitting there rocking, and I'm going, oh my God, what am I going to do? O que eu vou fazer? O que eu vou fazer? And I'm speaking to them in Portuguese, what am I going to do? And they said, o que é seu problema? What's your problem? Mm-hmm. What is my problem? I don't have a husband. I don't have a job. I don't have a city. I don't have running water. I don't have kids. Who's going to protect me? What are we talking about? I mean, just like the litany, the list went on. And the self-pity. And like Joyce Myers just said the other day, do you want to be pitiful or do you want to be powerful?
Right.
And they said to me words that really changed. And let me just say right here, as I said, I graduated from college. I grew up in a nice home. My dad was a doctor. But none of that matters. When a disaster is at your doorstep, you need to know how to think.
Right.
And they said to me, you are an American. You have every right to own your own business. And you have every right to go start a business. And everything that we own, Simone, is in that van out front. And our mom has died in Brazil, and we couldn't go home to bury her. But on Friday nights, we go home, we have our steak, we have our little beer, and we get up and we do it again.
Right.
And I will say that I learned the American dream from immigrants.
That's awesome.
And one of those boys went on to marry a woman who was a Harvard doctor.
Oh, wow.
And he was the chief carpenter. He and his brother, there was 2 brothers, they were the chief the carpenters for rebuilding the Whitney Slave Museum.
Come on.
So they got their success as well.
I think that there's like a distinct separation between people who in adversity can think straight
Yeah.
and make critical decisions,
Yeah.
critical thinkers,
Yeah.
and people that just get bewildered. And I mean, think about the Titanic. Like when it was going down, there was people that were dressing up like women and getting on the boats. And you see what I'm saying? Like we had that in New Orleans too. Like
Yeah.
you had the people that were like, I'm with them. What's in it for me? I'm going
Right.
to make sure I get me taken care of.
Yeah.
And then you had people that were, that were just freaked out and scared.
Yeah.
And they were just huddled up in the Titanic. They were huddled up in their rooms.
Yeah.
And didn't know what to do. And then you had some people that took charge. And I think the ones that can take charge in a situation are the ones that have been gifted with the
Yeah.
ability to not get rattled in the midst of a heavy.
I think that, kind of going back to what I had mentioned earlier about seeing poverty at a young age.
Yeah.
Not just once, but like every vacation,
Yeah.
and to be acquainted with that. Or perhaps you were someone who really went through a difficult situation. Your parents were divorced, or you lost a childhood friend, you saw something horrible at a young age. It's really the ability to harness your pain and make that fire in the belly to launch you. And there's those that can sit back as the victim and huddled up in their cabin as or if someone else said they're shuffling the chairs on the
On the deck.
of the Titanic.
Yeah. They were trying to figure out how to get order on the deck because it's the thing they understood.
Yeah. Or you can harness your pain and you can say, okay, what can I do to help someone else?
Yeah.
And so those boys told me that. And it was interesting because my neighbor, everybody had to. So at that point, I'm sitting and I said, okay. And they said, you're a woman. Look at, what do you need? And I said, because I sat there and told them how I was so scared. I was like, I don't have this. And they're like, well, there's a lot of other women just like you, And so that is why I said, okay, I'm going to start a demolition business targeting women, just women. Like I didn't believe in myself any beyond like women. And so I came out. So the story goes is I came out the gate with $250. A $30 box of business cards. And they were just pink. I went to Office Depot, pink, black, lettering, nothing fancy, no logo. And a pair of magnets for my car. I went to a printer all the way in Prairieville because nothing around here was open. And I said, I would like it pink on black. And so he said, ma'am, that's going to take 2 runs. I said, let's do it. So paid a little bit more for that. And I came back into the city equipped with my
business cards
business cards
and your magnets.
Yeah, and suddenly I'm a legit contractor.
Yeah.
And I started putting yard signs out on nice sandy lots that I did not do. And I would ask the owner or the neighbor, I'd call and say, get the name. I said, hey, can I put a demolition sign in your yard? I live here in Lakeview. I'm from here. And they're like, oh, sure. We don't know where that guy was from. This is maybe. So I started 10 months after the storm. And I'm watching everybody else come into town do our work. And so to paint the picture, I put yard signs out on jobs I didn't do. It looked like I did 100 demolitions. And it catapulted me. It got my name out there. And so the phone started ringing, hey, Demo Diva, we see your sign everywhere. Can we get, can you help us? I said, absolutely. Don't pay me until the job is done. We'll do it. We'll do this job right.
How did you figure out how much to charge and how much to...
That's a great question.
Yeah.
So there were demolition crews from all over, Florida, Michigan.
I know, yeah.
They all brought their excavators in.
I sold them all RVs, so I know.
And so I would tell, hey, Joe, follow me over here to Maple Street. How much to tear down this house? And he'd say, $5,000. So I'd call the customer back and I'd put 30% on top. I carried the insurance. I did all the paperwork.
And you're local, yeah.
And I was local.
Yeah.
And so the key factor is that I did not sell demolition. I sold trust. And I said, I'm your local girl with boots on the ground. I'm local. I'm from here. You'll have to deal with me and see me after. Trust me to help you.
Yeah.
And if I didn't know how to if I didn't know the answer, which I didn't, I was learning as I went. But it was so exciting.
I think the honesty too. I don't think you try to BS your way through
No.
it. You tell them, hey, I don't really know, but I'll figure it
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
That's
Yeah, and a
that's
lot of times you don't even have to tell them that. It was just like you're absorbing someone else's pain to say, "I'll be back," And so,
So tell me about the first house you did. Do you remember?
you know what? I remember the day, the call, the place. That it's
'Cause
etched.
it's one thing to have an idea. It's another thing for somebody to say, hey, I want to hire you.
It was a single woman.
Okay.
This is a great story.
That's apropos. I mean, it was a
Yes,
single woman.
it was a single woman on Fleur de Lis.
Like you sitting
Right.
in the room.
She was a Fleur de Lis. It was her first house. It was right by Old Hammond Highway on Fleur de Lis, and it was August 1st. I started Demo Diva June 10th, and 10 months after the storm. So I registered the name June 10th, and 2 months later, within a month or 6 weeks, I got my first contract and got the permits, got all the disconnects, did everything for her. And I remember when she called where I was standing, and I started jumping up and screaming. I was like, somebody trusted me. Somebody trusted me. We're out the gate. And that was the first.
So you didn't have equipment?
No equipment.
Yeah, I mean, how did you do your
I
first job?
subbed everything out.
Okay, so you just went to a guy
So
that
I
did
went
the
to
work.
other guys. Yeah. So I had about a list of about 5 or 6 people,
Mm-hmm.
and I would just say, hey, how much are you charging? And then, a few hours later, bring Lewis by and say,
Similar-
hey, how much? Yeah.
similar to like a roofer. I mean, a roofer
Yeah.
doesn't have roofing crews working for them.
Right.
They get it bid out. And
Yeah.
Add their percentage on top.
And so I subbed it out for the first few years, but this was a real interesting night. There was a night that it was the first night that they were turning the lights on at I think that's called Lakeview Playground on Navarre, right by Delgado, and it was the first time that lights were going to be on in the city, and it was a big deal. It was the first big gathering after the storm. And so I took my little plain pink. At this point, I had no logo and no confidence in anything. I just thought maybe I was just going to do this just to pay my bills and
Yeah, just get me through.
yeah,
Yeah.
until I could get back to hospitality. And so I walked around the field, and I was putting the business cards on windshields. And, sometimes we can be our own worst enemy. And I looked over and I recognized a couple of girls that I'd gone to St. Pius with.
That's it for this episode of The Tenacious Entrepreneur. Thanks for tuning in and being part of this journey. Are you an entrepreneur with a tenacious story? We want to hear from you. Visit our website, tenaciousentrepreneur.com, and click on the Tell My Story link. If you got something valuable from today's episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with a fellow entrepreneur. Keep pushing forward, and remember, the end is only the beginning. A new episode drops every Wednesday at 7:14 a.m. Until then, remember to stay humble, stay focused, and be tenacious.